Hello and welcome back to the Inverted Castle, a Metroidvania enthusiast podcast. I am your ancient yet no less beloved host, Eric Fox, and with me is a man who is, let's be real, a smarter, stronger, sexier version of myself, Tom Blight.
That one's not even in this. Or are you talking about the remake? I guess I'm the remake of you?
You are my remake, and of course we are talking about two games this week. Ones that make me feel like my bones are turning to dust just thinking about how old they are. Metroid and its 20 years erstwhile remake, Metroid Zero Mission for the GBA.
Should I be concerned that when you said smarter and sexier, I thought of SAX from Fusion?
That is quite a leap, but also I see where you're coming from there. Unfortunately, no, there is no SAX in this one, in neither of them. As far as we're concerned, that game doesn't exist yet, or already has always existed. Let's start with Metroid.
Yeah, okay, this is getting convoluted. Metroid.
Metroid, released back in 1986. Just the before times for, I'm sure, most people at this point. Just a year after Super Mario Brothers, same year as Zelda. This was one of the namesakes of the genre itself, and just as a very early example of it, and it kinda shows.
Yeah, it is interesting looking at this and seeing the genre stretching out behind it and being like, that was... I'm not sure I could have imagined this if I were playing it in 86 going that way.
Yeah, like you can see a lot of the hallmarks of it because it's still like a running and gunning, platforming. It broke new ground, at least at the time, by forcing the player to move left and scrolling the screen that way in order to progress right. A maze-like level design where gaining abilities allows you to traverse later areas, although that's not as, just from the sheer lack of a lot of the items that we'd come to appreciate in later entries. That's less of the focus and more on knowing where to go,
yeah,
I guess.
And it's interesting. I feel like the knowing where to go, or like, I don't know, searching for the one block that lets you move forward is a pretty constant thing in the original Metroid.
Yes, it's very much you need to shoot every floor, ceiling, and wall in order to get to the end. Like, you'll get your missiles, you'll get your bombs, and, let's see, high jump and ice beam. These are your traversal options. Everything else is kind of just more or less make things easier, just extra health, longer range on your weapon, or the screw attack, which is just, I get to not deal with combat anymore, finally.
Yeah, I completed the game without the wave beam because, I don't know, I just forgot to search for the pixels for that one.
You did well by doing so, because this, in an interesting, I guess, design choice, you cannot have wave beam and ice beam at the same time.
Fair.
So instead they have two ice beam pickups. I'm not sure if they respawn if you get the wave beam or not. But yeah, the wave beam goes through things and does more damage. Ice beam freezes enemies, but you need the ice beam to kill Metroids, and you need to kill Metroids to beat the game. So at some point you need to run and swap out, and so I just never bothered getting the wave beam either.
Fair. I mean, I just didn't find it because it's in a random, like, blow up a floor, find it in a dead end, and you don't actually really need it. There's a door behind Ridley that you can open with it, so...
Yeah.
But, like, there's nothing of game importance in there. Those missiles, probably.
Yeah. Shockingly, relatively few pickups in general. Like, you can have up to 255 missiles, but just being a boss nets you, like, 75 to your max for both of the bosses you fight before ending the game. So, a lot of this game is not particularly important, and instead they will prank you by, for one thing, just like I like a lot of the enemy design for an NES game. I think they've got a lot of character in terms of the enemies that like pop off the ceiling and explode, or just kind of meander around whatever platform they're on, or annoyingly like sinusoidal wave up and down that makes them basically impossible to hit with your 4-dimension, like honestly like 3-directional aiming most of the time. But the level design leaves a lot to be desired, because they kind of designed a few rooms and then made a lot of rooms out of that.
Yeah, particularly, I mean, this game does not have a map inbuilt.
No,
so
you are...
gotta get out your graph paper. I particularly felt it in Kraid's Lair, where I feel like they intentionally made it so that it seemed like you were in a room that you were in before.
Uh-huh.
Just to make it harder, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, like you will frequently go like, I don't know if I've been here before or if this is just a copy and pasted room again. There are like 3 different like map tile sets, essentially. 3 or 4. So like when you're in discrete zones, that'll change. But within those zones, even within the same hallway, it's just the same like platform pattern repeated. Or you'll go through a door and it's just the same blocks of stuff, except occasionally some things will be destructible and not other times. And that's how you find the way forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so there's the whole making fun of David Jaffe for not finding the destructible blocks. But I definitely did that in this game.
Uh-huh.
Of just like, oh, I forgot to bomb that particular block. Or like, they have a weird habit of the block is right beside the door.
Not only beside the door, like underneath, like you have to open the door first and then bomb the space that it was occupying.
Yeah, and it's like, that's the one that I was definitely most likely to miss.
Yes, this game was made in an era where they wanted you to get your money's worth, and by money's worth, I mean you don't get to beat it unless you spend all of the hours bombing any even feasibly bombable spot.
Yeah.
No map, that you make your own. No guide at the time, unless you had an older brother or uncle who worked at Nintendo. I'm sure the Nintendo Power issue on this game was sold gangbusters.
Was Nintendo Power around at this point? This is something I have never looked up.
I'm sure it does not matter.
Fair.
Oh, man. But no, yeah, it's really frustrating. Especially because if you were to die, say, by going the wrong way or the right way and you just didn't realize it, the game throws you a bone, one singular bone, in that you can respawn at the beginning of the zone. So you don't have to navigate from the very beginning of the game to where you were. Thanks, Metroid. What they don't tell you is that that bone they threw clonked you in the head and reduced your HP back down to 30, no matter how much maximum you have, or depending on where you are, need.
Yeah, I mean, I was playing this on the Switch. I just aggressively save stated.
As God intended.
Yeah, I mean, I also did that with Zero Mission because...
Sorry, what? I don't know what that game is yet.
Okay, that's how we're doing this, huh?
We'll see. Yeah, because using the password system, there were some famous passwords back in the day to start with everything, but starting from a new game and writing all that down, like, it's just my kingdom for even just a save file.
I mean, save files were in The Legend of Zelda, which is the same year, but definitely still a period where they weren't all doing the same thing, and I wonder if it's something dumb like batteries and cartridges made them more expensive.
Like, I almost assume as much, or like this game was in development long enough that that wasn't standard yet, so they didn't bother, and then Zelda kind of broke the mold. I have no idea. As old as I am and as old as I feel, I was not yet born when this game was coming out, so
It's true.
Don't know the context.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if we want to transition into the context zone...
Sure, why not? 1986 was a pretty big year for some of the, like, long-running franchises.
Like, they got their start or got major updates here?
Yeah, so video games that were given awards in this year, Super Mario Brothers.
Hell yeah.
Dragon Quest, Gauntlet.
Like not the arcade, but the NES release.
Yeah. Milon's Secret Castle, which is another proto Metroidvania that we should probably talk about at some point.
Never played it. I don't think I've ever seen it. So okay.
I think I've only seen it from Metroidvania Works, but Jeremy Parish, so.
Well, it's a secret to me.
Crackout.
Crack out.
That's one of the breakout things. That,
Okay.
like, hit colored blocks with ball and bounce. I don't know.
It's an Arkanoid like.
Yeah. Volleyball.
Okay. Just the sports game.
Yeah. Zanak. I don't actually know what this game is.
I'm pretty sure that's a supplement or.
Yeah, it helps with depression.
Okay, yeah. And side effects do include Metroidvania. Okay.
Outrun.
Okay.
Castlevania, the original.
Before it would be even remotely relevant to our interests.
Yeah, this is level-based Castlevania.
Yeah, before it got good.
Yeah. The Legend of Zelda.
Okay, yeah, we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, which you could probably argue that Zelda has as much to do with the Metroidvania heritage as Metroid itself.
There are enough similarities to its design and just the experience of playing it that I would say yes, especially the first one, in terms of here's a broad map, figure it out.
Sanction with an X?
Is that a shooter? Is that a Xevious?
I don't know. I didn't look that one up. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Ghosts and Goblins.
Okay.
The Sentinel.
Oh man, they made the 13th one recently.
Family Trainer.
Sorry, my mind is internet poisoned.
I have no idea what this is. Wait, is this actually a game, or did I forget to erase all of the non-game things? Well, okay, Elite Systems. That might not actually be a game.
That's productivity software, my dude.
Yeah. Iridium?
This game won an award?
Yeah. It's Your Boy Metroid, which did actually win for best action game from Famitsu.
Damn, okay, yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh, right, this would have been the Japanese one, not Doki Doki Panic.
My list for this is mixed, and I closed all the tabs that told me
I
about
can
this.
only assume.
Gradius.
Yeah, well.
The Pawn. Pro Baseball Family Stadium.
Oh, man, my mind is internet poisoned.
Kineko. And Vietnam.
Oh, man, I thought that was earlier.
Yes. The war of Vietnam.
Or
the country. It's just a game where you play as a Vietnamese citizen.
In the future, wars will be fought on a digital battleground. And it was the NES. I knew Contra was real.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Elite Systems was definitely a software house.
Oh, okay. It's just like, man, the Space Sims Elite and Elite Dangerous got their start early, I thought.
They made Airwolf. Oh, and Joe and Mac.
The Caveman Ninjas?
I thought that was Data East, but maybe Data East was the publisher.
I think Data East is a publisher.
We'll find out what else I forgot to take out. Oh, Iridium. Iridium is, yes, definitely a shooter.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, it's The Last Starfighter.
Like the movie?
Yes.
Huh.
The game. I don't know. Yeah, so, like, there's definitely some classic series that are figuring things out. It's kind of mad to me that, like, how much of all of Nintendo's big heavy hitters are figuring out everything at the same time.
Oh yeah, no, like especially when you think of the sequels to these, where Nintendo was fine to be just like, oh yeah, that weird TV show game. Yeah, we'll slap Mario on that and make that the sequel in the West at least. And then Zelda, like, this is more of a side scroller Metroid-like now.
Yeah.
But Metroid, they kind of just pushed this one out. Like, it clearly was appreciated, but it also didn't get another sequel on its own hardware, instead moving to the GB, or just the GB, the gray brick.
Yeah, and that took, wait, that's 91, that's 5 years?
That's 5 years.
It's a surprisingly long time between sequels.
Apparently Kid Icarus is similar. I could never get too far into it, but yeah, no, despite how much I think this game kind of does not like the player, I think in the context of games at the time, a lot of games hated the player. Mario Brothers notwithstanding. Like, have you played the original Zelda? Oh boy.
I have. Yeah, it's inscrutable.
Like, it's at the very least hard to scroot. it doesn't help that occasionally people will just lie to you. Like, I think this is, again, like, I'm not sure how much the manual would help at the time, like how much it's telling you, okay, here's like a brief map of where you should go, at least at the beginning. But yeah, like, speaking of things getting their start, this is where we meet our, like, the main antagonists of the series, the returning foes of Ridley and Kraid. We'll see both of them many times throughout the series.
And Mother Brain.
And Mother Brain, although that's usually a... Yeah, honestly, I'm just... Now I'm thinking, there's not enough... there's just not enough titles to really vary it up that much when, like, half of them are remakes. Like, you can argue Super Metroid is also a bit of a remake of this game as well.
I suppose. I've never looked at it as a remake, but you could see it that way.
I guess remake isn't fair, but you do go through, like, a literal shot for shot, the exact map of the final escape from Mother Brain that you do in this one. Go through it backwards, essentially.
Yeah.
As you explore the original Metroid area, and you do fight the same bosses as well as a few new ones, but except in this one, the fights are a bit less involved.
Yeah, I mean, prior to Prime, and then in 2D, Dread, I wouldn't say that the fights are ever all that involved in the Metroid games.
There's more you can do just from an expanded move set, and the fact of, like, you can aim in different directions. Like, in this game, Ridley and Kraid are both your height, and the strategy, at least that I found, was... freeze a projectile if you need to, and otherwise spam missiles till they're dead, just right in their face, and hope you have more health than they do.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I fought at least Kraid in a ridiculous way.
Oh, please tell me.
If you freeze all of his projectiles, he has a maximum. He can't summon more.
Ah, yes.
So you freeze them all in one vertical line if you can, and then you jump past it and just missile him. And then when one finally unfreezes, then you have to freeze another line and then go back, but it only takes like 2 or 3 repeats of that for him to go down.
Yeah, like, missiles do a lot of damage. Use missiles in this game. You will get enough, especially if you kill at least one of these bosses. Because, like, occasionally, some of the enemies, until you get the screw attack, which obviously just negates everything I'm about to say, some of the enemies just take too many shots, especially if you have the ice beam, where freezing them does not do damage, so you actually have to hit them twice as much once you get the ice beam. Instead, just missile them down, or if you're going to kill them at all.
Yeah, I felt that particularly with the little flying guys that spawn constantly. I feel like the original Metroid really leaned on them as a source of challenge.
Oh, yeah, like, every hallway has at least, like, 4 little pipes from Mario that would spawn them over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, they're also the way that you get resources to heal up.
Yeah, if you ever die, you need to find the closest one of those, and they do this annoying thing where they won't respawn until you collect their pickup, at which point they immediately respawn, so you have to stagger where you kill them a little bit, so it's a bit away from the pipe.
Yeah.
And you only get 5 HP at a time. Usually. Maybe they'll give you a big 20, very rarely. And a lot of the time, they'll give you missiles when you don't need any.
That's fair.
It makes starting from scratch very much I'll just reload a save state. There's no way this is worth the time investment. But that's just how you did things back then.
Yeah, and that's especially interesting in contrast to Zero Mission being way more generous with full heals.
Yeah.
Which, are we still pretending doesn't exist? Can we talk about Zero Mission?
We can talk about Zero Mission briefly, but I do want to kind of finish with an overall Metroid thing.
Oh, okay. You want to treat it like 2 mini episodes in a row?
Yeah, and then we'll move into, like, everything that Zero Mission does differently. Do a holistic thing instead of bopping back and forth.
That's fair.
But yeah, like, later entries in the series, especially once they did Zero Mission, like, anytime you get a new thing, anytime you, like, just update your map or whatever, there are, like, even recharge stations. Just get your health back. It's fine. We've balanced the game this time.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. I could not figure out how to properly Morph Ball bomb jump more than once in this game.
Me neither. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I'm sure it can be done, but I think what I did learn was the double jump trick, where if you place a bomb and then like unmorph and like from crouching stand up, you get to jump from that new bombed height. It's you get a bit extra height, but the only sequence break I did was to get the Varia suit early, which is just half damage, can survive in lava a bit. There's one spot where instead of waiting till later, where I think you need like high jump boots or something, you just kind of finagle an enemy up a shaft where you can jump through, and at which point you freeze it, jump off its head, and then you get to a spot where you're definitely not supposed to be. But it was very nice to have half damage when I was planning on going down to Kraid and Rochambeauing him right in the face.
Fair. Yeah, I don't even know if this actually counts. I got the ice beam in the pit in the Brinstar area.
Yes.
Basically as soon as you can. I actually got stuck in that pit for a while and couldn't figure out how to get out, and I'm not sure you're supposed to be able to get out of that pit without the high jump at that point.
I did the same thing because I just from prior knowledge, I knew that one of the pits has the ice beam, and I'm like, okay, I'll just find that first, and then discovered, oh, without extra jump height, this is so hard that I'm just going to come back later. But you're never sure because the game does, it can ask a lot out of you, and it's like maybe they just wanted it to be hard. And they didn't know quite what they were doing, but yeah, no, like there's another ice beam pickup that's a bit easier, but way later.
Yeah.
I think it's in Norfair. Probably Norfair, because I know in Kraid's hideout there's one spot that's like the place where you get the ice beam, except instead of getting that or various missiles, you instead get nothing. It's just an entire, like, 3 separate hallways with a vertical shaft on either side, and there's literally nothing in there. And all the hallways are copy-pasted, so they all look the exact same. So you're not sure, like, okay, did I already go down this hallway, or is it the one above it? And I had to look at a map, and it's just a prank. They just played a prank on you, and I thought that was very funny, but I couldn't tell if it was intentionally a prank or if this is just, this'll eat up an hour or two. Get that value, baby.
I don't know. I think it is... I assumed it was very intentional that Kraid's lair feels more hostile design, like layout-wise, than the rest of the area.
Yes, but also like Ridley's area, which is harder to get to because you have to go through not only all of Brinstar but all of Norfair to get to it, is very cleanly designed. It's not hostile, except that all of the enemies do way more damage and all of the lava floors do extra damage. But like it's a kind of a straight shot, and every place has like at least a pickup. This is just a weird corner that if you go in, it's just a trap.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Kraid is just a smarter base designer.
I do like how they're all called hideouts. Like they're little children making their little secret bases, and like you're just kind of playing out a space fantasy. Looking at Kraid, I would not expect him to be the brains of the operation, especially considering the names of some of the other boss.
Fair.
But I don't know.
And also, I feel like Kraid is not going to be portrayed later as, a smart and credible threat.
No, he's always like an early, like, first boss almost, if he appears at all. I mean, Ridley's no better. He doesn't even have, like, things on his front to protect him from missile spam. You just get under the arc of his fire and just go bop, 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 he's dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird game. Definitely of its time, and not a lot of fun to play even with save states. I think, like, they get rid of the challenge, and then there's not a lot there. There's not a lot of, outside of the 4 significant upgrades, everything kind of just feels perfunctory. And once you've beaten the 2 bosses, you just kind of are like, okay. And then finally meet the Metroids.
Yeah.
The namesake.
Which are a pain.
Oh my god, yeah.
I don't know. I never felt like the morph ball bombing was working quite right, or maybe it's intentional that it's very easy for them to relatch on you.
Yeah.
But like I think I had to figure out that you have to bomb and start moving in a like backward or something, and then that way they won't relatch the moment you stand up.
Yeah, I had similar troubles of just like kind of flailing around, just spamming bombs and hoping it kind of worked. The real strat is don't get hit, but again, like you only have so many directions of firing, I guess, and they move like weird, like circular patterns around you. And if there's ever more than one, it gets a little bit dicey, but mostly fine. It's actually just kind of a drain on your resources right before you get to Mother Brain Fight, which is also designed around draining your resources. This is what all the missiles are for.
Yeah, I don't love Mother Brain as a boss fight.
It is really just hope you have enough missiles, get through this gate from spamming missiles, just like you did for the red doors, and they're just firing a bunch of things from every direction, ice beam to stop them from respawning, but...
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a matter of get good that I feel like it's not reasonable to even try to dodge. You just freeze what you can, take the hits, and hope that you can kill Mother Brain before they kill you.
Yeah, again, this is early NES, so you don't have a lot of maneuverability in terms of like just moving around. It's all very floaty, and just your run speed never gets faster, and it's kind of slow, and it's very, very narrow walkways there. Best strat that I found was just to freeze one of the SpaghettiOs at around the right height so you don't have to keep jumping to fire missiles at the brain.
Yeah, that sounds like a good tactic.
It is, except, again, you're limited to the SpaghettiO, and then there's other SpaghettiOs coming at you. So you're going to get hit and then have to jump back on. But if you can button spam, you'll probably win that fight.
Yeah.
And then after that is the classic. Oh, everything's blowing up. You've destroyed Zebes. Here have a very long jumping puzzle that, is tense if you really don't want to redo that fight, but if you've got save states, then it's just like, get out of here.
Yeah. Actually, this is kind of funny. I did real bad at it in Zero Mission, but in the original Metroid, it was fine.
In the original Metroid, the floatiness of the gravity does make it, I think, a bit easier.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think I'm one of those weird people who actually like the floatier gravity.
Okay.
Like this and Super.
Yes.
I don't know. There's something that just feels right about it as a like space adventure to be a little floaty.
It's definitely more unique, and I think if the combat, I'll say, it's easier for platforming, but a lot of the time it just makes combat slower and harder in comparison to the more grounded iterations of the franchise. Yeah, you escape, and if you did it fast enough, you get to have pixelated smut.
Whoa, because women are for looking at their bodies? I don't know. I mean, so like,
yeah.
At the
time, you thought Metroid was a cool robot man, but instead it's Samus Aran, and she's a lady.
Yeah, which is, I guess, progressive. I don't know, it's a little weird. I feel like games were almost more willing to have women protagonists early on, and then like at some point, I don't know, someone was convinced that it's a marketing optimization to have a man.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, games were definitely still marketed towards boys generally, because it was a toy, and that was the aisle on Toys R Us they decided to go with. But, yeah. I don't know.
Although that's kind of funny, because they were sort of, with the NES, intentionally not. Or, like, it is still a toy, yes, but they're trying to, like, claim that it's more than just a toy, right?
Right.
It's an entertainment system.
I think they were actually just trying to say, oh, it's not like the video games of like the Atari and during that whole crash where video game term was kind of poison.
Yeah.
Especially like this early on in the NES's life cycle. They're still trying to keep distance from E.T. and the landfill that it eventually filled.
Yeah.
So it took them a while to figure out what Metroid was and what its strengths were. Like in this game, clearly made a splash, but they knew that they could do better, and some 18 years later, they decided, you know what, one mo again. We're gonna do it right this time, and called it Zero Mission, despite it not really being a prequel. It's just one mission. Or two missions, actually.
Samus's missions are zero indexed. It makes perfect sense.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, she's a programmer.
Yeah.
Why not? And so, yeah, for the GBA post Fusion and right before Echoes, or around the same time, they re-released, or not even re-released, they redid the whole game from the ground up and made a lot of changes, which were for the better.
Yeah. I mean, it would be pretty hard to adapt the original game and not make a ton of changes. I don't know. I guess you could have just given it pretty sprites and then called it a day.
Or they could have like actually just made a new game that followed a general like, oh yeah, hit these two bosses in Mother Brain, but instead they did take the skeleton, like the map of Metroid NES is still there, and then they just kind of compartmentalized certain parts, which made more sense with the new items like Speed Boost and the grabby arm thing. They made new pathways in between them. They structured the sequence a bit better, so it's not, you're less lost in mazes.
Yeah.
The prank I was describing earlier now has a point. But everything is still kind of in the exact same spot, to the point where I did the exact same sequence break to get the Varia suit early.
That's fair.
Not quite the exact same, but still, like, yeah, get an enemy, freeze them. But it's in the exact same spot. Like, I didn't even need to look up a map. I was just like, okay, I remember it being roughly at the top of Friendstar, and I have the Ice Beam. I wonder if I can do this, and I could. It was cool.
I mean, it was kind of funny playing them back to back like this. Just like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is all the same until it's not.
Until it's not. Until actual, like, extra bosses start appearing. And like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's brighten up the monotony of just getting lost in a maze for a while until the boss happens. It's now you got mini bosses and challenge rooms for the new items or the old items.
Yeah, which it starts changing things pretty quickly. I think the up to the long shot is pretty much the same. And then you encounter the centipede.
Yes.
And you're like, wait, what? Centipede?
You just got the missiles. Like, in the original game, that was almost a nothing thing of like, oh, I got 5 missiles now. I can open up a red door. Whoop. And now it's like you try and leave to go where you know the long shot is, and you're stopped by a dude who wasn't there before. Pranked.
Yeah. Which, kind of sillily, so the centipede leaves if you're too slow in killing him.
I did not know this. Sorry, I'm too good at gaming.
Man. I'm really showing my noobness now. I actually did a really bad job of killing him, and I could have killed him several times and just kind of whiffed on the last couple rounds of getting into place and shoving a missile up his eye.
Yeah.
So I got the charge beam after beating Kraid.
Okay.
I killed the centipede. I was like, it's probably time to kill that centipede.
So does he show up somewhere else, or do you just need to leave and re-enter the room?
Yeah, he will show up. There is a second location that he shows up as well, but he'll show up back there again. Like
alternating?
It's I think it's both of the long corridors in Brinstar.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, I felt kind of silly when I was like, oh wait, that's where I'm getting the charge beam. Huh.
There was a point to the boss. He had a goodie that didn't exist before.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Speaking of goodies that didn't exist before, they made an interesting choice with the Chozo artifacts to have pickups that are sort of glorified keys at first, and then recontextualized later in the game.
Yeah, you'll get a thing that your current suit just can't interpret. It's a bunch of question marks. But they will make certain blocks disappear and let you go to other areas until, I guess, a sort of post-game thing where those things will then become your actual items, and then you've got a whole bunch of new tools to kind of play with for the last act.
Yeah, which I don't know if we want to jump to that last act. I don't know. There's the same stuff. There's Kraid. He's not Samus-sized. He's very much more like he is in Super Metroid.
Yes, the place you fight him in is actually, I think, what Dread mostly cribbed as far as environment design, being a more mechanical spot and the 2 levels at which to fight him.
That's true. So, I guess, apparently I'm just going to complain about bosses today.
Oh, sure.
I don't love bosses like Kraid, where I feel like the main challenge is, can you shoot a missile at the same point of descending or ascending your jump consistently?
That is Kraid's boss fight every time, I guess.
I don't know. It just
You don't like just it being a very precise thing that you just have to get consistent at or else die.
yeah, and I felt like being consistent at that was way more important than avoiding his attacks, right? I don't know. It's the Metroid problem of if you are going for as much completion as you can get, then most of the fights are going to be more about tanking their hits and hitting them back consistently as opposed to dodging.
You get to trade skill at consistent, very precise combat with your skill at scouring a map and doing that efficiently and not losing your mind. So you can be less good at the combat if you invest more time in the exploration aspect, which is fair. I certainly kind of wish being a good exploratory boy didn't make things too easy, which it kind of does. Like, I didn't have a problem with Kraid, but mostly I could just kind of tank it and just spam missiles because I had enough and hope that one of them got through.
It's at least interesting. I almost think that Kraid is more interesting than Ridley in Zero Mission because you can spam missiles, but if you're not accurate, you're not gonna have a very good time, right?
Yeah.
Where with Ridley, I kind of felt like the fight ended before it really began because it turns out that just putting yourself in position to hit him is most of the fight.
He doesn't really have iframes or protections. It's just a knuckle down, two gorillas just kind of beating each other. You can go around and just try to avoid the lava pit at the bottom, but just spam super missiles, which you have in this game instead of just your piddly regular missiles.
Yeah.
And Ridley goes down the first time.
Yeah, and I don't know. I guess this is just my preference in general, is I much prefer Dread's move towards being nimble and it hurting a lot when you get hit.
Yes, that did a lot to balance out I've gotten everything in this area, so I've got all this kind of health, but I can still only take 3 hits instead of the 2 that I would have otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you put that to too much of an extreme, it would feel like you're searching for upgrades is maybe not really worth it. I don't know. I think Dread found a good balance.
I think Dread found a good balance. I can see where someone might think Dread was too hard, but I don't know. I can't remember difficulty scaling or what options were available there. But I think definitely at around this time, there was a move to being a more nimble Samus. We were talking about how floaty the original NES was. In this one, Samus has a really sharp gravity.
Yeah.
Jumps are very quick, even with a high jump. You get pulled to the ground really fast. They did add a speed boost to this one as well, meaning if you get a bit of a run, you can just kind of clear through places.
Yeah, I didn't love the jumping gravity, which is funny because I'm wait, isn't this the same as Fusion? Do I just not remember Fusion?
It's pretty much the same engine as Fusion, or at least slightly modified. I appreciated it during the long vertical shaft segments, which hold over from the NES one. They do a bit more to differentiate the landscape and environment, so it's not just copy and pasted, but there's still a lot of climbing you gotta do, and being able to just hop is a lot better than hop, land.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I never felt like I had my jump distance calibrated and was frequently clinging off of things instead of landing on them.
Yeah, I think it just didn't bother me.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll just grab and climb on.
That was a pretty big frustration for me in this one's Mother Brain fight too, is just I felt so dumb just not being able to jump between the platforms consistently.
Oh, yeah. It is an awkwardly cramped space, so yeah, I can see that. Mother Brain, I don't really feel like defending, even though I didn't have much of a problem with it. It's I can see how it would be annoying. It's just one of those, at the time it kind of just washed over me. It's all right. It's the same design. Although on the subject of that jumping gravity being weird, did you know you could wall jump in this game?
I think I've done it accidentally and then keep being like, huh, what?
Yeah, it makes the timing for that really strange because like in the floaty Super Metroid, it's still kind of precise timing, but you can kind of like see that special like animation change that lets you do it a bit easier. In this one, it's very much you need to learn the rhythm, but you can still like scale just one wall over and over and over again. But
Oh.
it's never required. But again, it's a thing you can get an extra goodie here and there a bit earlier than usual. And if you're really clever, probably something more significant. Same with infinite bomb jumps.
Yeah.
If you time your B presses to I think it's the Magmore Caverns theme of Prime. It's either that or Norfair from Super. One of the two. They're like da 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 things. That will like that one actually was a tip I heard from a speedrun commentary, and I was just like, oh, and it worked. It made it very consistent to just infinitely climb, and I didn't do much interesting with it, but it was a neat thing.
Yeah, I didn't like. I tried to learn it a little bit just to get like some missiles
You,
earlier.
you can see something a bit out of reach. You don't have high jump or something yet, so you just do that and gain infinite height, but less useful than you'd think.
That is another way that you can get the Varia suit early. I think even before you have Ice Beam.
Mm.
I think all you need for it is once you've got the Morph Ball bombs.
Yeah, I think I tried, but it was just a bit too hard at the time.
Yeah, I am not a good sequence breaker, so I was not going to attempt that.
We'll make something of you yet. We'll find a game where the sequence has to be broken.
That how does that even work? Is that even a sequence if it has to
Oh,
be broken?
okay. Yeah, no, I just realized I made a Metroidvania paradox. The sequence is that it's broken. What?
I mean that seems like something that someone would do in an indie game of like make a self-referential game where in the narrative of the game you are sequence breaking. I don't know.
Or maybe it's a game you play multiple times, and like the next time you play through it, you've got more like stuff, and like, okay, now I can break the sequence of the last run, something like that.
Oh, like the Chrono Trigger endings kind of thing. I don't
Kind
know.
of. Yeah, like when you go back, you suddenly have like the ability to win fights you couldn't earlier, or get to places you couldn't, and I'm sure a game's done it.
Yeah, I
But
don't know.
speaking of sequence, Zero Mission actually makes it more clear what the sequence is supposed to be. In that, like, there are Chozo statues that you need to like kind of hit, and they'll put a point in nothing, or occasionally update your map and just be like, okay, here's where you need to go, and then a bunch of places you can also, check out if you want.
Yeah.
And they also added cutscenes for, say, I think it's like around the time you're killing Kraid. Ridley shows up with his space pirate team because they are separate entity from Mother Brain. They're not the same crew.
Oh, are they?
I believe that, yeah, Ridley leads the space pirates, and Mother Brain is just the defense protocol of Zebes, and was supposed to be keeping tabs on the Metroids, but then got corrupted somehow, I think, through the space pirates. Listen,
See.
the lore, which Zero Mission does try to expand on with these like oblique little snippets of Samus's past. Most of what I know of it is from a manga I read some 15 years ago on the internet. So take it with monstrous piles of salt. But I think in that, Samus kind of like grew up here in Zebes and like was raised by the Chozo, who were the ones who created the Metroids initially. And then she went off to join the military, and the rest is history. Ridley also killed her parents, and that's why she's got like the vendetta against him specifically.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like the cutscenes didn't really add a ton.
You don't need to see the space pirates showing up because you just haven't been to that area yet. And they may as well have always been there for as much story as we're getting. Like outside of Samus's initial dialogue of, here's the story of my first mission, my so-called Zero Mission.
Yeah. I was a little surprised when post Mother Brain like text actually showed up in one of them after they'd previously been just like, I don't know, a couple of scenes.
Yeah, one of the twists of this game is that there's post Mother Brain content. Like those things that your suit couldn't interpret earlier. They're for this section, but first, when you're trying to escape and having ostensibly blown the planet up, instead it just doesn't. I don't think that that's adequately explained, and instead Samus gets shot down, loses her suit, gains her Zero suit, which was what it'll be called in at least Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden the game is a stealth game. Not unlike the SAX sections, but not as good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was fine. It's certainly a change up.
Yeah.
I don't know that I loved it.
I liked just it being a different approach to problems. Actually, just you can sneak, your weapon will not kill, and you have to charge it up. Everything's really linear at that point, so it's just like very discrete sections of get past these enemies. I just don't think they're very elegantly designed, and clearly there aren't enough stealth mechanics other than stay out of sight, and what the line of sight is kind of nebulous.
Yeah, definitely was not amazingly clear.
But it's fairly short, even for as short as this game really is, before you get your upgraded power suit with a little cutscene showing an old Chozo and young Samus. It's just, again, very oblique reference to she was raised by Chozo and has some of their DNA somehow injected blood transfusion. I don't know. That's why she can use all their stuff, and now she can use more of their stuff, like power bombs. They love withholding power bombs ever since Super Metroid.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, especially with the like screen revealing. I mean, I guess you could have them reveal things that you can't use yet, in terms of like blocks, right?
Yeah. There's also no equivalent to the X-ray scope from Super either. But at that point, all those sections that were previously stealth are now action segments, and you've got like super powered beam, and the game has this entire other section which is just the space pirate flagship.
Yeah.
But you can also go back to previous areas which were somewhat locked behind this new suit you just got. So now is the real 100% collecting. Beating Mother Brain was just a harbinger of that.
Yeah. Although not a ton is actually locked behind power bombs.
Right.
The things that I was going through and finding with the help of maps and things like that seemed mostly like it was Speedbooster things that I could have done earlier.
Yeah. So, we had mentioned Dread earlier. I remember back during that, one of my favorite things of that game were the little Shinespark puzzles.
Yeah.
Where they show you speed blocks, and there's no way to just run into them. And so it's figuring out, how do I get a Shinespark / speed boost to this point, and kind of teaching you various tricks with that. Like keeping your speed charged through like slopes and angling things, bouncing off walls, although I don't think you can wall jump with the speed boost in this one.
No, you can jump and you'll retain it until you land.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it in terms of tricks with the speed boost itself. Shinespark works pretty much the way Shinespark worked from Super on.
Yeah, going into slopes either in the running or in ball form, if you just hold toward the that direction, then you return back to running, so you can then store another Shinespark. But
yeah. Oh, I guess there is Ball Spark in this. I think this is the first one where you can Ball Spark.
It's been too long since I played Fusion, so I assume as much.
And that was the first Shinespark puzzle that I did. I was to get a super missile in Brinstar shortly before you're supposed to get them. Like, it's before you traverse Norfair all the way and go to Ridley's lair.
See, you're making the attempt to sequence break, so I like one of these days it'll pay off for you, but I don't think you enjoyed yourself in this one.
It was a bit of a pain. I mean, it was me learning a lot of those mechanics and finding out, like, oh, you forgot to hold the direction that you were supposed to go, so you just stop when you hit that slope instead of preserving momentum.
It's like, I don't know, I like the idea of this quasi hidden mechanic. You just have to figure out what you can actually do with it beyond its initial, like, oh, you can run fast, okay, and then what happens when you press certain buttons, and like just like what has to be true in order to get to them. It's definitely less fleshed out here than it would eventually be in Dread.
Yeah, I think Dread's approach of actually telling you that Shinespark exists is the better approach, but
Yeah, they just can't help themselves still back here. Even 18 years after the NES, they're still like, we'll let them bomb every wall and or try every button combination before we'll let them have all of it.
Yeah. Other ones that were funny for me struggling. I spent a lot of time struggling with the one in Criteria where your ship was,
Okay.
because I kept forgetting that Ballspark exists. And so I was trying to do like pixel perfect diagonal launches and
No.
being like, why isn't this working?
No, you need to become Orb. It's so much smaller. Like, honestly, that sounds like user error. The error. You were just wrong. I'm sorry.
No.
Your emotions are invalid. And good day.
I don't know. There's one really long one in Chozodia, which I'm not super fond of the long ones just because it takes so much reset when you screw up.
Yeah, and even with save states, it can be a bit of a nightmare when it's just like you need to get all of these sequences in a row
Yeah.
when you're already like not liking most of the execution aspects of this game. I liked it just fine naturally, but again, I can't defend it. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it was perfectly designed. I still would have preferred it being a little more elegant or a little more optional if you're like going like if there's like another way to get to it if, with just like a later upgrade, but if you want to get it early, here's a speed boost puzzle. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I guess. I mean, I can't think of what the. I mean, the most impactful thing that's locked behind Speed Boost is energy tanks, right? And you don't need energy tanks to clear it.
Yeah,
Although
but
I haven't actually gone back and fought Metal Ridley at 100% yet. My understanding is he gets harder once you get 100% completion.
okay, I also didn't go back to fight him, so that's interesting.
I don't know. I saw it in someone's mention of it, of just like he hits way harder now once you've gotten all of the items.
So what you want to get is 99% of the items, and then just kind of round up.
Yeah, just leave that one missile pack.
Just trick him like, no, Meta Ridley. Oh yeah, by the way, Ridley comes back in this one as the final boss.
Yeah, with another boss fight that I don't love because it's can you consistently deliver a missile to the same place by shooting while you're coming down from a jump?
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things where like the combat was never like it didn't give me as much friction as it does you, but it's also not what I'm really coming to this game for. Like I kind of like the moment to moment of like exploration and just like angling your shot for like just general enemies. Like all that's fine, all that just kind of flows naturally. And when I get to the boss, they're generally fine, but never anything I would go back and say like, oh yeah, I got to do the boss rush or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have that much of a problem. I'm just
You got a nit to pick.
being a complainer for the complaining's sake.
Yeah, you got to justify it beforehand when you inevitably put it at the bottom below Xanadu.
I don't know if it's that low.
You know, but no, it's kind of amazing that like this game is still like technically just Metroid NES, just better. Like it still is recognizably that game. It's just with all of the cruft, all of the stuff that was bad removed,
Yeah.
except with a few things that you kind of just wish they improved on instead of excising, like the floaty jumps and I don't know, some of the more open-ended aspects of that initial maze design. I could have gotten behind another prank, but I just need to know that they know that they're pranking me.
No, clearly they should have done the reverse prank of make it seem like a place is completely useless and then actually have a very important item inside it. I mean, I guess if you recognize the prank from
Yeah.
original Metroid and you're just like, nope, not going there.
Yeah, no, I already know this. Like, I already did the, okay, I know where the Variasuit is, same spot, and then I went to where I knew the prank was, and if I'm just like, oh man, another copy-pasted room with nothing in it. Don't need to waste my time. Where's the last missile tank? But nah, I don't know. Like, overall, I was... Because I played these games, like, immediately one after the other. Like, I finished, like, Metroid NES and just immediately booted up Zero Mission. It was just, oh, here's what a at least a modern-ish game is. Like this feels like at least like the indie side-scrolling at that level instead of an ancient. Just you have to appreciate it for what it is because it's not going to appreciate you. It's certainly not appreciating in value.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else to really mention?
What did you think about I don't know what to call it, the big balls that block progress at certain points?
The big balls that block progress.
Yeah, the ones that can only be destroyed by the weird mites that attack you when you're in morph ball form.
Oh, right. Those tripped me up, but I think they're really cool.
I can't decide if I like them.
So, like, the thing is, like, you are taught that that's what they do. It's just you have to really pay attention to why, like, one of those fleshy orbs disappeared. Because it's nothing you do. Everything just kind of does that clinky, like, bounce off. Nothing you do is working. But if you pay attention, you can see these little, just pixel-high things climbing onto it, and then it disappeared. Yeah, if you're not playing all of this game in like one sitting, I guess, like if you came back to this later and just completely forgot about that, that would really trip you up on certain areas where you're supposed to collect some and move them, because it'll latch onto you as well.
Yeah. I guess the thing to me is like, I mean, I haven't gone back and seen if you can do that early, or if they just don't show up in the right places. The mites, I mean.
Yeah. If there's some trigger for them spawning.
Yeah, it's like most of the time, I guess, in Metroidvanias, there's not very much artificiality of when you can't progress. I don't know. This doesn't make a ton. I'm not being totally coherent here, but like in games, there is always the potential to arbitrarily remove an obstacle, right?
Right.
Like, you can always have a guy standing in front of a door in Pokemon or whatever, and then he'll just arbitrarily leave when some event happens.
Yeah, you talk to the right person, you beat the right trainer or whatever. Yeah, like it's... So, like, for this one to be not... Well, I mean, it's somewhat gameplay driven, but you're not sure if there's just a flag that gets set if you say beat Cray, that all of a sudden, oh, now I can get through here, instead of it being an item you pick up and it's justified that way.
Yeah, I feel like Metroidvanias, more than other games, really need a strong cause and effect.
Yes.
In order to feel good. And usually, like, a really direct cause and effect of, you got this thing, now you can solve this problem.
Yeah,
right?
You see the problem first, and then there's the answer to it that's not only narrativized, or even sometimes just, like, completely separate of just, oh, you've hit the event sequence, and now they're allowing you past. I guess not knowing whether or not the mites show up prior to some event flag, or if they're always there, is kind of makes or breaks this particular instance.
Yeah, I think they only show up after you get the power grip.
That would be annoying. Like, I can see if the designers really wanted, like, it was necessary that you have the power grip to go even further, but I don't think you should be able to see a thing that is locked in that way. It kind of runs counter to the, if you could make it there with the right tool, you should be able to break it, and instead they're just kind of only giving you the key arbitrarily after you get some other unrelated thing.
Yeah, I don't. It's a pretty minor complaint, honestly, but I don't know. Maybe there's some purists who are like, they should have at least had, like, when you get the power grip, you then, like, as part of escaping from an area or something, you unleash the mites or something like that.
Or even just like the power grip magnetizes them in some way, like, and it justifies why the mites suddenly cling to you.
Yeah, I mean, they always cling to you.
That's a thing. It's like, it's not, but it could be.
And they will deal damage to you if there's enough of them.
Minorly, because they're little tiny things, but still, it's a proto-Metroid-ish behavior, I guess.
Yeah, and you do clear them with the bombs, so...
Yeah.
Maybe that's a weird, subtle training for Metroid.
It's very subtle, but it's very hard for me to remember what it's like to not know how Metroids do.
That's fair. I mean, like, with Metroids, it's just like, you try all of the things that you can do, right? There are not that many verbs in the Metroid games.
And most of the verb is shoot with a different object, so...
Yeah.
But no, if the mites are indeed event scripted locked, then that sucks. But I do like the idea of there being like an environmental puzzle that is, you just kind of pay attention to like what's going on instead of what your verbs are. I wish they did more with it and kind of codified it a bit better. But again, it's all theoretical.
Yeah.
I theorize that we should probably be wrapping this boy up a little bit.
Yeah. So I debated whether I should do context for Zero Mission. Let's do it anyway. So Zero Mission was released in 2004.
Okay.
Alongside other games. Here's the award-winning ones. Dragon Quest VIII, Journey of the Cursed King.
Mm-hmm.
Gran Turismo 4.
Oh, wow.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
A lot of cars so far.
Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
The best one.
Kessen 3.
I don't know what that is.
Kessen is it's a Romance of the... No, not Romance of the Three Kingdoms. It's Japanese. The Warring States era...
Nobunaga's Ambition.
Essentially equivalent of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, like army simulator.
Oh, okay, the strategy game, not the Muso.
Yeah. Onimusha 3 Demon Siege.
A lot of threes.
I don't... Oh, okay, no, this does make sense because this is a remake. Metal Gear Solid, The Twin Snakes.
Oh, yeah. They animated up.
Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, which I believe technically counts as a Metroidvania.
I believe that one in particular, yes. I think it also had multiplayer? I can't remember.
Yeah, it did. Pikmin 2.
Okay.
Weirdly, 2 different WarioWares. WarioWare Twisted and WarioWare Touched.
Weird.
I assume one of these is for the DS maybe, and the other one is for the GameCube? Wait, no, that doesn't seem like...
Touched is definitely DS. Twisted, I'm not sure.
The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap.
Yeah. Zelda's just can't stop coming out during the Metroid era. Every Metroid game.
Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Oh, man.
FIFA Football 2005. I apparently won Best Sports Game that year.
I guess if one game has to win Best Sports Game, but like...
Yeah. Burnout 3 Takedown.
Okay.
Mario Kart Double Dash.
Nice.
Sonic Advance 3.
Oh, man, that one was a weird one.
Fable. Was Sonic Advance 3 weird? I don't think I...
You could get a main character and like a partner character, and depending on what team up, you'd have a different ability. So you could have like Sonic and Amy, or Tails and Cream the Rabbit.
Okay.
And they all have their different names.
Doom 3.
A lot of threes.
Yeah. Battlefield Vietnam.
Okay.
Not to be confused with the Vietnam that we talked about in 1986.
No. That was the real war. This is a video game based on that.
The Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay.
Apparently an amazing game. Never played it.
I believe that was the editor's choice of game that should have gotten more attention.
Yep.
Pro Evolution Soccer 4.
A lot of threes, a lot of soccer, weirdly.
And then I think this was actually the most anticipated for next year, Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
Zelda also gets 2 scoops.
Yes. Two scoops.
Okay. Still, yeah. Continuing like, okay, yeah, Mario and Zelda. Still going strong. Vietnam, weirdly, still going strong.
Yeah, I don't know. Mario, Zelda, Vietnam, soccer.
Yeah, always overshadowing our boy, the Metroids. Or I guess our girl?
Yeah.
Did you know Samus was a girl? That shocked me. And now you got another opportunity to shock me by telling me where you think both of these games individually rank in all the games we've played.
Oh geez, I have to rank two games now.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, bucko.
How do I feel about these games?
Like, I can start if you would prefer.
If you know it, then...
Of course I know it. I came in prepared.
So that they go down up at 3 and 4, right? Right under Metroid Prime. You're just gonna carve out a Metroid section in your right.
Oh, by no means is Metroidvania going anywhere near the single digits of this rank. I think I'm going to rate it above Banjo-Tooie, sheerly on the strength of it being just the first one. even though I do find it incredibly annoying to play, on a list of Metroidvanias, I just can't say it's more that than Banjo-Tooie.
I mean, that is an interesting spot because you're saying that Legacy of the Wizard and Maze of Gallius were better.
Oh, by a country mile. Maze of Gallius, that map was not copy and pasted. For one thing, it was very similar looking, but they didn't do just the same, and it had, I think, more items that, while not all interesting, certainly did more for me than just another missile pack. I like Maze of Gallius, and it also had a whack story. I love the idea of steal your unborn child's soul back from the weird wizard man.
That's fair.
And then Legacy of the Wizard is just kind of a better Maze of Gallius in a lot of ways. Certainly a better Xanadu. But yeah, Metroid, the NES, above Banjo-Tooie, below Yoku's Island Express.
Yeah, I feel like we're very harsh on Yoku's Island Express. But
We were, but it'll get pushed up by all of the detritus we have yet to play.
But I guess we're just not that into pinball.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Zero Mission, the decidedly just better version of Metroid, I'm going to put below Environmental Station Alpha, which is just too interesting of a game for me not to. Like, this game is very cool. It does a lot of things well. It is still very short, even with all the added things onto it. It is still kind of just an NES game plus. And above Astalon, which I think is a very good game. I just had more fun generally with Zero Mission, and partially this is nostalgia from a game I've played a lot.
Fair. For me, looking at this list, I probably am just going to go with the same place for Metroid NES.
Yeah.
Down there. I mean, like, I don't know. As much as I complained about pixel hunting and stuff, actually, I did complain about the flying enemies everywhere all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely something that is a rough experience now. Definitely something that I feel like is making you feel like you're gaining the hours of enjoyment just by working for it.
Yeah. If I was of a mind, I think if I was the kind of person who would draw a map, this would be a much more engaging experience. I'm just not.
Wait, did you not draw the map?
Of course not. I looked it up.
Oh, I drew the maps.
Oh, you. No, I ain't about that life. I remember when I was a child and playing this old-ass game, I played the first, couple of screens on Brinstar about 80 times, because I was 3 years old. What else was I going to do? So I had that basically memorized, but beyond that, I was just looking stuff up.
Yeah. I will say, if you are drawing your own maps, it's not a great experience. A lot of the rooms look the same, and especially in Kraid's area in particular, you're like, oh, okay, I've reached this part that I saw earlier. No, it's a different section of Kraid's area. You
need to keep track of exactly your path. You cannot rely on landmarks at all.
Yeah, so I'm going to put it down right between Yoku's Island Express and Banjo-Tooie as well.
I told you, you're just like me. Just you look better.
The big question to me is where to put Zero Mission. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with Zero Mission.
Nothing
it's
really
fine.
Wrong. It's a fine, except for all the fine details that you found were nits to pick rather than anything shining that you're like, oh, I gotta play this game for this.
Yeah. So I think I'm looking at, do I want to put this above or below Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, which is currently my number 11.
Yeah. Did you enjoy it more? Because I think I can't remember what your opinion on that game was overall.
Aria was fine.
A lot of games are fine to you. You don't experience things in
I liked
hyperbolically.
A lot of games. I liked Astalon a lot, and you did not like it a lot.
Yeah, that was a game for me that was fine, which makes sense that that one's in the middle of my list, and Castlevania, and now this game is going to be basically in the middle of yours.
Yeah, I don't know. Exploring in Astalon was like crack to me.
Oh man.
I think I'm gonna go under Area of Sorrow.
Fair.
I don't have that strong of opinions about this.
I also enjoy Aria of Sorrow more, so at the very least, relatively, we're on the same page, if not, holistically.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's a fairly significant gap between this and Legacy of the Wizard in terms of how fun it was to play in the moment.
And also number of years between release, so that
Yeah. But I guess Zero Mission is not particularly doing new things, which I mean, it's a remake. I guess it would be weird if they were
yeah.
doing new things.
And they added new things in the context of like it relative to its original game, not so much it relative to what a modern Metroid kind of is. It cribs a lot from Fusion and Super.
Yeah.
Like it even does the like Meridia tunnel explosion.
Yeah, that's true.
References. So yeah, it's very much a game for people who like this game already.
Yeah, so I'm pretty comfortable putting it as my new number 12 in between Aria of Sorrow and Legacy of the Wizard.
Excellent. But we're going to need to add another game sometime soon, and I think it's your opportunity to inflict it upon us.
It is. And I struggled a bunch with what I was going to do here. I decided that as of time of recording, I went to PAX West not that long ago.
Okay,
and saw some Metroidvania games there. So I decided to choose one that was already released from that set.
So very recent, still getting kind of pushed, but not an upcoming game for us, relatively speaking.
Yeah, and by the time we actually post the episode, it's going to be old hat.
Oh my, yes.
So I'm going to do Haiku the Robot.
I know this game. It's the one where the robot cranks it live on cam to heal.
Yeah, that is okay. I guess that is a description of how you heal in the game. Ugh. Way to make it weird.
I'm sorry. They invited it themselves. Like it's even where he cranks it seems a little lewd. Not as lewd as doing 100% in Metroid Zero Mission, but still. Anyway, that should hopefully be a pretty good time. Hopefully we'll have more to say than just 5 syllables, then 7 syllables, then 5 syllables. But I guess that remains to be seen. In any case, I think that's going to do it for us. If you like the show, or if you hate it, sure, whatever. I'll take all comers. Email us at invertedcastlepodcast@gmail.com or follow the show on Facebook or on Twitter at InvertedCastleP.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, write an angry iTunes review or something.
Oh man, still give it 5 stars, obviously, but make the body of it just the most wretched things you can imagine. There's no such thing as bad publicity, and sure, my self-esteem can take it. Regardless, I think that's going to do it for us. I've been Eric Fox.
And I've been Thomas Blake.
And remember, kids, if at first you don't succeed, just do the same thing again 18 years later.